Sweat on that.
In an open window.
Oh, what the fuck is this? We're stewing your own juices.
And the other one we had down was shared community. Did you want to explain your in whom? I don't know, it's good and bad. Instead of who, but whom?
Right, well, then, yeah, the other one was just, hearing God from people you don't expect it. Like, you know, even out of the mouths of your enemies, you can hear what God is saying to you.
What is the reason why the world's in this?
Probably.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
That's
there you
a
go.
good way of putting it, yeah.
You. Remember Michael Valentine Smith?
Stranger than stranger. Did you read that? No. I know.
Lonely.
Stranger in a Strange Land?
Springfield.
It's a Heinlein.
He was the
Oh,
son
no.
of
It's not such a
Robert Heinlein.
Oh.
He was, Michael Valentine Smith was the son of two astronauts who were exploring Mars. Woman got pregnant on Mars, they died. Michael was raised by the Martians and brought back on the next expedition to Earth. Everything fell apart. But he comes up with, he's hearing this word of God, or word God, and he couldn't figure it out. And he finally figured that God is in all of us.
that hard. I would say.
Early 60s, very, very popular course.
When?
It was groundbreaking. It was groundbreaking science fiction and changed the nature of the genre actually. Anyway. But
I was peeing my diapers.
Circle of life, you're gonna do it again.
Is that it?
We don't experience God as a who. It's a much less anthropomorphic kind of thing. It's more experiencing a relationship.
We did say, oh.
Other, yeah, the experience of other. Did you take your bill?
You said that this, not that.
Yeah.
Since we're gonna go get John from the airport.
That was love. I think other
John.
Martin Buber and
John.
I that.
Guess it was the wrong day.
That was yesterday. I set the alarm for the wrong day, which
That's
is why
fine.
I didn't read yesterday. So you said, and
Not this, not that. In quotes.
you said something before in and as the other. You said something about not so much as a who, but
A relationship,
We said I, thou.
yeah.
okay.
We're done.
I said, well, here's the problem. First, we gotta fix this. started talking about the different places and spaces that we're aware of other people finding God, and how diverse they are, and how God is often used to justify all manner of nonsense. We started, tell me if this is fair or not, but we came to the place where we realized that people tend to answer these questions about God after the fact, and that it was really somehow connected to either how things turned out or needing an excuse. And that maybe for us, ultimately, these questions are unknowable in an objective sort of way. And that's when I said, well, this was a stupid thing I came up with. But maybe not, because, I mean, I think all of these things that are up there are true. But what I'm really looking forward to is tomorrow when we try and decide where God isn't. And whether that will be easier or more difficult. And that's all I want to say.
I think we all struggle with this, and all being dutiful servants wanting to do our assignment. I think it's hard to posit a reality that none of the terms fit very well. You know, it's kind of like trying to describe a color that no one's ever seen, or a taste, that no one's ever tasted. Well, it's like this. It's like chicken. It's like, but it isn't. It tastes like chicken.
Everything you shouldn't eat tastes like chicken. Which makes you why we eat chicken.
Well, I guess the way I understood the assignment was to speak from our own experience, not examine other people's experience. And it sounded like that's not,
No, that's where we were coming from. But it was experiences we had with people who, too, as well, who have said, well, God's here, and then trying to justify that with our own experience of where we found God and where God isn't. And it became really, really hard to say anything. Is that fair? I mean, sure, for example, somebody does something wonderful. Rushes into a burning building and pulls somebody up. I've never done that. But I don't imagine that they stop and think, should I do this or not? I imagine all the accounts I've read, they just did it. And then after the fact, we go, God made them do that. Well, how do you know? How do you know? Was it that on some essential human level, it's just the right thing to do? It's kind of like that book we started reading.
Righteous Mind?
yes.
So is it because we've internalized these values? I don't know. I think ultimately, when we get to the where is God not, it becomes really instructive, because we all may have our own answers where God isn't, but if somebody came up, if I decide God is not in the trash can, which is pretty silly, but that's what it is. And somebody comes up and says, I've never experienced God quite as clearly as I did at the landfill, how am I going to say no? Well, here,
One month in the dome.
Yeah,
In the dump, what happened to that one?
You missed that one.
Where's that?
Which isn't enough to.
Oh, there it is.
We're just saying, God can be.
We have
Oh,
not.
so in the dump.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
This is, obviously tomorrow, because we started having a discussion about what God is too. What you were saying though is trying to explain something as opposed to experiencing something. So the onlooker is trying to explain why did that person do that, but we've already said that it's in our nature. And to the
Oh, I
person.
took that to be nature.
No, in our nature.
Well, in the why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's our nature to do so. So it is, you know, the person doing it is the one who's reflecting what we would be arguing this God spirit. Right. Anyone else looking would say, boy, I wonder why they do that. But I could say the same thing about the guy who picks up the trash. You know, how do you do that?
Right. I guess for me, the question that comes up for your group is, do none of you actually experience God?
That's not it, I think it's,
Well, that's the question
well,
that there is.
right, yeah, no,
Right.
yeah, I'll give an example, so, let's say it's hypothetical. I needed to get on a flight to go do something that would have, you know, could have put me or somebody else in danger. But it needed to happen. But for whatever reason, there wasn't a return flight. Because out of nowhere, the weather changed at the destination. Basically, tracking, this is all hypothetical, tracking me where I'm at. I'm telling you it's hypothetical because I have to.
All right. I'm not, all right,
So-
I'll let you finish, but I'm still not seeing that as an answer to my question.
No, well, but this is where I'm going at with this. This is how we got to where we are at. If I would have hypothetically done what I said I was going to do, it would have saved one thing, but it would have caused damage in a whole bunch of other shit. So what's trying to get fixed, the beginning of it happened already. The situation took place. Why would God interfere in one and not interfere in the other?
Well, I'm not, I guess.
So this is where we're at of saying, okay, so what I said was, you know, did God say, look, you're not going to survive what you're going to do, so I'm going to change the weather on you to prevent you from literally leaving. But fuck it, deal with this shit over here because that was your decision. You opened that door. You deal with it.
Yeah. And
So then it comes down to how much, and Bishop had said, you know, how much of it is coincidence? How much of it is our own doing, right? So what I struggle with is what, you know, if I have to ask why, you know, in my relationship or my experience, why would God let me fuck up there but not here? This I can physically handle. This I can't.
And the answer is we don't know. We don't know.
Doesn't
But we do know,
And that's-
we do
Right,
know
but
that
that,
something.
but that doesn't answer my question. Do any of you actually experience God? I mean, that's my question to your group.
Right, that scenario, doesn't that
Experience.
presuppose
Did you experience
like
that?
the whole omnipotent, omnipresent God? I mean, that really only applies in the case of the sky daddy we were all raised with. I mean,
Right.
we
But-
don't really-
So then, does it come down, and maybe we got more philosophical, but then does it come down to, I mean, I agree, absolutely. I don't believe in the sky daddy. But the question we were left with, you know, we said arbitrary and unknowable in terms of how, are the places we assign God's presence completely arbitrary? Or mostly arbitrary? Or, because ultimately, and this is what makes God problematic, where I might say God is here. Somebody else might feel not at all. And does it come down to that we're using God to make sense of our world? And how I see God acting might depend upon the belief system that I've internalized.
See, that really kind of gets to the discussion that we started in table about God and not the ineffability. God is everything. And this is where we started. This is the Rabbi Rami Shapiro, he and I had a conversation about this, and his answer to me, Jerry, you have to understand, God is everything, both good and bad. And we were in a class he was teaching, and that set off the firestorm. But it answered questions to me. We want to assign to God all the good stuff, and we want to assign all the bad stuff to somebody else. And that's where he's saying, no, this is the fountain you drink from, this is the ocean you live in, you take it, you take whatever you want from it.
And I mean, these are the questions that have plagued philosophers since the beginning. I mean, I was just thinking, there's a book by Karen Armstrong, which is called A Case for God, which has all the arguments that but interestingly, what you described, the situation you described, and you could say there was a good thing and a bad thing, but the good thing that happened looked like a bad thing, the bad thing that happened looked like a good thing. And so I think even terms like good and bad, and consequences, and I saved the kid from getting run over by the fire truck coming down the street, but 2 years later he gets a brain tumor and suffers a terrible death, and all that. Did I do a good thing? Did I not do a good thing? I think we run into the same problem when you're discussing, when you're trying to put God in any kind of box.
Well, I guess,
Here's ultimately what I think. So that is a Hindi phrase. It means it's all one.
Yeah.
It's all one. It's an incurably valid answer, it's all one. And that's why before when I had Jesus, I wish I could draw like people with capes. Superman Jesus, right? No. I think, and I'm going to argue Saturday in the homily, is that this, can I say this to me?
Oh, yeah.
Right up.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, which is why I put it there.
So good drives you insane?
It does. Okay, what is guys? These heads all misshapen. How do we explain it? This is dead. Great. Dead as a doornail. And I think what you have instead is this. And so what you have forgive me. But when I draw boobs on a stick figure, it looks like breast, sorry. Tatas. That kills me too. Save the tatas. Give me one. But I digress. So let me mix metaphors. With 2 or 3 of them. That one theory that says that God created humanity because God needed to create humanity so that God could experience God's self, because you can't experience, nothing can experience itself from within itself. So God experiences God through humanity. I can buy that half the time if I've had a few drinks. On the other hand, what about the indwelling Holy Spirit? It says God dwells in all of us. So when we pray, the question I asked before, here's this guy, he's doing the big D. There's communication that's going on in ways that I don't understand, because this is all connected, because it's all one. When this goes out, it's like it's going out everywhere. When we look to be rescued, we're looking to be rescued from up here, but in truth, as St. Teresa said, God has no arms and legs, now but yours. And so if we're going to be rescued, it's going to be rescued from down here. We're so damn busy looking up here for Jesus to come swooping down on the capon that we miss the fact that these people are the people that are coming to us and rescuing us. So if we're going to experience God, we're going to experience God in these people. The who, what, why, where, when, and how is in these people, including me. Because ultimately it's all one. Because it's all tied together, because we are all bearers of God. And so there is neither a positive nor a negative answer to any of them. Unless you want to make an answer everywhere. But you're right, it's not free, you said it now. But what we do is we try and get selective. that turned out the way we wanted it to. That would be God.
Yeah.
We're not so happy about this. God is missing it. The new thought people are thinking their way into heaven. If I just have the right thought, never mind the other 7 billion people that are thinking, my thought will change everything. The fundamentalists are praying their way into heaven. I'm just going to pray the right stuff, never mind the 7 billion other people are praying, God's only going to listen to me, and everything will turn out the way it's supposed to turn out. And it's just not any of it. And I think, ultimately for me, because I'm apathetic and because I think because I know in my experience it all has to fall away. And you can't artificially force it away, it has to drop away. All the things that are important to get you to a certain place, pretty soon you find out they're absolutely worthless. Although you can see they have value, they're worthless things that have value. Just like the plane that got you here, assuming you flew, isn't here now anymore. And it's irrelevant to you now because you're here, it still exists somewhere, but you have no use for it now, you'd rather have one going back the other way. It's here. And that doesn't mean that I'm not really arguing transcendence and immanence. I'm saying we're singing a country western song called Looking for God in All the Wrong Places. and it's causing us to miss, for me anyway, the splendor and the beauty of God, because we tend to look for God in we imagine dramatic ways that this God up here would act because that God up there is a pretty dramatic and strong guy. And so when somebody pays for my sandwich because I left my wallet at home, that's not God. And I just think, because that's not dramatic. Had lightning struck and, a $10 bill appeared in the counter, that would have been good. But nobody's ever seen that happen. And so I think we're so busy looking for the supernatural that we've taken God out of the every day and miss maybe all of it. And so somebody comes over and says, I find God most often when I put my head on the floor and my butt in the air on carpet I rolled out. And we start arguing about, well, that can't be. Instead of saying, well, of course. It might not be my thing because you'd have to bring 3 people in to lift the heck up when that was done. But I just think we close that door. And it became really apparent to me as we were talking about all this stuff that to some extent, if it's all one, then everywhere and nowhere alone. And where we tend to spot it out is what becomes arbitrary.
But if you say it's all, at some point you can say it's all one, and that has the same effect as saying it's all nothing.
Yeah,
it's interesting. I think it's a balancing act. It's the both and. It's the somehow the interplay between the two.
Well, I think it's all one in the sense that it's all interconnected.
Yeah, and I would say that too. But when it's all interconnected, you can no longer differentiate because you can't find anything that's not connected. That sounds so. And if it's we're used to discriminating, in a binary sort of way. And if you take away that, you can't discriminate in everything and nothing. It's the yin and the yang thing. Somehow it's the interplay between the two. I'm being inarticulate here.
No, the point that we're all breathing air. And today's a wonderful day, so the air is fresh and clean. So we say, God's given us a good day today. Okay? The dust storm comes up. Now it's the same air, dust is in it, having a difficult time breathing. God gave us that too. We're assigning a value that I think is okay. The fact that you can say, whatever, pick any one of them, and say that means that's my experience of God. Has nothing to do with the interconnectedness of everything else. It has everything to do with me, because at that moment in time, I'm experiencing something that is always there. I just didn't have my antenna tuned to the right station at that point in time.
And when it's over, and I keep on moving, the station changes, and I miss it again. But something that, because I'm an energetic worker, that energy is always there, and sometimes you tap into it, and it feels good, and sometimes you tap into it, and it feels bad. It has nothing to do with the it has everything to do with the you. And, you know, as we talked about, how does this work in our church? It's the us saying to the you, this is how we believe you can experience it more frequently. This is how you can experience it more joyfully. This is how you can, you know, whatever you think you need to make your life better, and whatever that may mean for you, it is there. The river is there. So one of the things I did for a kids class once is we talked about Jesus ascending, let's go. And I got a globe, and I put a pin saying, here we are. Okay, where is up to you? It's up there. Well, you look at this, you see where we are on the globe, it's that way. You go down to Antarctica, something's not that way. Isn't that what a devil is? No, we are connected. We're connected all the time. We're the ones who make the decision of how plugged in we want to be. And that happens because of the rules of this planet. That's all. This is how we were made on this planet. It has nothing to do with how things may exist other places in the universe, how other places exist, how other things may exist. Right here explains us. Boom, right there. And that's all we need to be able to do as a church, as a pastor, as a priest, as a whatever, is say, look to your right, look to your left. You're going to find out.
And I agree. I think from a pastoral sense, nobody gets out of bed on Sunday morning and comes to church to find if you've got a bulletproof proof for the existence of God. I mean, I think for the most part, they come for reasons of questions in their own life about their existence or experience, whatever. It's a community of experience, and we compare experiences and we share experiences, but none of those experiences, even combined, define the ultimate reality. We're not going to define it. We're not going to, and you might say, well, you don't have to. Well, some people do have to. They have to work at it anyway. I think, your questions were frustrating. I think ultimately the questions of all humanity, and ultimately the questions, I'm into dualism here, ultimately the questions were pointless, because there is no ability to effectually do it. But yet, when somebody comes to you and says, I'm suffering because my wife is sick, they're not interested in a proof of God or who, what, when, where. There's something more, there's connection. There's connection there. And perhaps in that connection, it's a dynamic thing. In that connection, they find God and we find God. But as soon as you go back and look at it and say, well, we found God there, let's figure out how to define this, and we can do it for everybody all the time. It doesn't
The one thing that is misunderstood about the yin-yang symbol is we look at it as this two-dimensional thing. There's this black, there's this white, there's a little black and there's a little white here. It is not. It is a three-dimensional thing. And it is constantly flowing. The parts are flowing into each other in a way that mediates balance. That's what this whole thing is all about. So one cannot exist without the other. And always what we're trying to find is that balance.
Light doesn't exist without shadow, shadow doesn't exist without
That's right.
light.
And so we can play with all the words and say, for our purposes, for our church, we understand, we believe that we're just all connected, that we're all in this, and we all share this. We can't define this. We don't do a good job defining this. So we've given up. We're not going to try and define it. What we're going to try and do is experience it. We're going to try and learn to live with it, both good and bad. We're going to try to be both a guide and a follower, because you will experience things differently than me, and we want to know how did you do that? We look when we do things like this. We're trying to say, this is a production meeting, how do we capture this and sell this, you know? And we can't, it just doesn't bottle well.
Well, and nobody cares.
And
I mean, some people care. Theologians care. There's a time and a place for that discussion, but nobody shows up at a church going, I want to find the most satisfactory definition of God that I can. What's potentially unique about us is that we have the opportunity to be a pastoral church. And every other church is something, oh, and we're also pastoral. And whatever something is, you know, liturgical, charismatic, whatever. We could be pastoral and also something. Many things, sacramental, open and affirming, inclusive, but in my experience, if you can meet the pastoral need, the rest of it will take care of itself. If you can't meet the pastoral need, it doesn't matter how well you explain the issue. Because most people don't care. I admit, I kind of rebel, repulse. I heard something Aaron was listening to on Facebook, some woman that sings really nice. And she does. But she started out talking about somebody who had died and how, I just know they're up in heaven now looking down on us. And if that brings her comfort, that's great. I just wanted to puke everywhere. Because I'm like, really, where can we go?